Hello again. We're back studying cell structures, and let me move to our appropriate slide. We just finished lysosomes, and before we move on to vacuoles, that's what this video covers. It's very short. I want you to think about how all of these cell parts are fitting together. And so this is a picture of a cell. You can see this is the plasma membrane of the cell and the nucleus with connected to the endoplasmic reticulum, and there's a single Golgi apparatus, and it looks like maybe this is a lysosome possibly that's forming from the Golgi. Now, sometimes we memorize like what each part of the cell does, but we don't think about how they're connected. I want you to think about a cell that's sitting in the pancreas that's making insulin. Insulin is a protein hormone that helps our cells to use glucose. There are some cells in our pancreas that make insulin. In order to make insulin, you would have to have, this cell, here's the cell's nucleus with its nucleoli. You have to have a gene that codes for the production of insulin turned on in the nucleus. A piece of that gene, a piece of the DNA that codes for the building of insulin has to be turned on. What that means is that DNA needs to be copied into RNA in the nucleus. That RNA has to leave the nucleus, leave the nucleus through those pores, and eventually that RNA is used to provide the code for the building of the protein insulin. This is probably going to happen at the surface of rough endoplasmic reticulum, where the ribosomes are, right? So the ribosomes attach themselves to, and here's our RNA molecule, our messenger RNA molecule. We'll talk more about that. The ribosome attaches itself to the messenger RNA molecule and then attaches itself to the endoplasmic reticulum, where it starts to build the protein for insulin, the insulin protein. And then it ships it to the inside of the rough endoplasmic reticulum where it's modified. Maybe it's folded. Maybe it's checked for quality control. Eventually, that modified insulin protein is going to be shipped in a little vesicle to the Golgi apparatus, where more modifications take place. And the modified insulin protein is probably tagged with an identification system that says, hey, you're going to have to be sent out of this cell. So it's tagged. And then as it travels through the Golgi, it gets sent to a vesicle that is headed to the plasma membrane, where the insulin proteins, fully functional now, are released out of the cell or secreted out of the cell. So notice all of the parts of the cell that are used or that are used in conjunction to make one protein called insulin. There are other components of the endomembrane system. There are bigger membrane-bound structures. We call these vacuoles. There are all different kinds of vacuoles out there. Food vacuoles, contractile vacuoles. I wanted to mention central vacuoles. Central vacuoles are found in plants, not in animals. And they're very large fluid-filled vacuoles. Fluid-filled meaning primarily filled with water. And they take up a huge amount of space inside a plant cell. And so we might say, well, what do they do? What are the functions of the central vacuole? I have a huge list of functions. They are storage sites. I'm going to read them off here just to make sure I remember them. So a lot of things are stored here. Things like inorganic ions and organic molecules. Metabolic wastes are deposited here, so they're kind of a storage spot for waste. Sometimes pigments are found in the central vacuole that help contribute to, say, flower color. poisonous compounds are sequestered here, kind of preventing that poison from spreading to other parts of the cell. And importantly, this large central vacuole filled up with water pushes against the cell wall and helps support the plant cell. It helps support the plant, but the plant cell too, so that it's turgid, if you will. When the plant cell loses water from its central vacuole, the central vacuole kind of shrivels or shrinks, and the cell becomes less rigid, and it can lose some of its structure. It can lose its support, if you will. Okay. But these are not found in animals, just plants. All right? We're going to move on in the next video to the mitochondria. But that's it for this video.